Empires fragment and fall due to many reasons. One common factor in their decline is greed. This leads to government corruption and overexpansion, which may poorly affect their economy and people's morale. Government corruption can greatly weaken the internal framework of an empire. Government officials may create political strife in hopes of taking the highest position of power for themselves. They may lack loyalty to the ruler and disregard how their actions may affect the empire as a whole. With a mindset of every man for himself, they may create discord in hopes of gaining support or more land. On another level, officials may unnecessarily raise taxes and try to keep some of the earnings for themselves. They may also expand and conquer more than necessary. Many empires conquer their surrounding land in hopes of gaining valuable resources. All is well if they retain a strong control. However, if an empire becomes too ambitious, they may overexpand to the point that their existing government cannot control all their lands. Once that happens, the empire may spend money to try and suppress the many uprisings and riots. With the sudden need for additional revenue, the empire may raise taxes and anger even more citizens, leading them to perhaps lose even more control. Economic problems such as higher costs of items and inflation may lead to the stagnation of trade. All these possible dilemmas can add up and create an extremely stressful situation, which may lead to poor and irrational decisions on the empire's behalf. This may create a cycle of destruction which can destroy the empire.
Historians generally see what happened from 200 BCE to 600 CE in the Roman Empire in two different lights. The first is being decline and fall, which is the weakening of Rome that led to the disintegration of the empire, and the other light being transformation, which is the changing of the Roman Empire that ushered in a new era of the Roman Empire. When talking about decline and fall of an empire, we usually assume that the empire was completely destroyed or disintegrated or was conquered by another state. Isn't about a sudden fall, but is more about the culture of the empire and how it transformed instead of the entire empire completely falling. Rome didn't completely fall, but it also didn't completely transform. It did some of both. Rome was split into western and eastern halves. People generally consider when the Western Empire half fell, Rome fell as well. While we do believe that when the West fell, the Roman government fell, however, the east side of the empire was still thriving.
When the Germanic barbarians took over, they weren't trying to destroy Rome. Instead, they merely wanted to become respected and recognized since they had been in the Roman army for some time. After the barbarians took over the empire split into many kingdoms, each belonging to a different tribe. However, it should be noted that the East stayed intact and was barely affected by the barbarian takeover of the government. Of course, even when Roman culture and identity stayed in the East, that doesn't mean that the Roman Empire stayed the same. Many cities collapsed, the infrastructure disappeared, and the economy and political structure fell apart. Thus, while we do believe that the Roman government fell, and as a whole the empire took a blow, we think that Roman culture still existed in the East, and the lives of the peasants still stayed the same.
There were many factors that contributed to the fall of the Roman Empire. Throughout the history of the Roman Empire, the Romans had conquered massive amounts of land. They ended up expanding to the point where they couldn't properly maintain control over the entire empire. There were only so many soldiers, and with the massive amount of land they controlled, the army was spread very thin over the empire. This made them much more vulnerable to outside attacks. After the Pax Romana, the Roman Empire was not conquering nearly as much as it did previously. Conquest brought more money and slaves for the Roman Empire. Without the outside money or new slaves, the Romans struggled to make enough profit to pay for its costs. The empire relied on slaves for agricultural labor. With no new slaves being brought in, the slave population declined, and by extension, profit declined even more.
To make up for the loss in profit, the emperors started debasing the currency. In addition to debasing coinage, they lowered the amount of silver in the coins. These factors combined resulted in inflation. Because the Roman currency was worth much less than before, soldiers demanded an increase in wages. If their wages were raised, then the Roman Empire would have less money and the cycle would repeat. Now, if the soldiers didn't get an increase in wages, then they would become angry and rebel. They would abandon their post to make their general the new empire. This weakened their defenses and further allowed the multiple outside barbarian forces to infiltrate the empire. The barbarians would then demand to get a part of the empire, and the Romans were forced to give them it. This caused parts of the empire to be split, furthering the decline.